This tutorial will demonstrate how to load core section images into Corelyzer. Before you proceed, you should make sure that your images are ready for use in Corelyzer. Your images should be in JPEG, TIFF, bitmap, or PNG format. JPEG is what we typically use at the CSD facility. You should know the resolution of your images in DPI. This value was determined when the physical cores are scanned and should have been provided with your images if you didn't scan them yourself. They should be either horizontally oriented, such that depth increases from the left to the right of the image, or vertically oriented, such that depth increases from the top to the bottom of the images. And then there are two suggestions. These are just optional, but they will make things easier. If you can name your files according to a naming convention, like the CSD Facilities Convention or ICDP or IODP conventions, that will make it easier for Corelyzer to recognize and auto-sort those images into tracks as appropriate. It will also be helpful to keep all of your image files in a single folder as opposed to spread out over many folders if possible. But again, those are both just optional and suggested. So let's return to Corelyzer. And I will load a single image here into this currently empty session. I'm going to load one image just as a very basic demonstration. So I've got a whole list of images here, but I'm just going to choose this first one in the 1C hole. And I'm going to click open. And then you'll see this dialog. So this dialog is asking for your resolution of your images in DPI on both the Y and X axis. These are almost always the same. I've never seen a case where they're different, but if you do have different values for DPI X and Y, you would enter them accordingly here. I know the resolution of my images is 254, if I can type here. And I know they are horizontally oriented. Down here, it shows how Corelyzer is going to arrange the single image that I'm loading. There it is, and it's going to place it into a track of the appropriate name. It's the 1C hole, so that makes sense. Because my image was named based on the CSD facility naming convention, Corelyzer can just determine what the track is. We'll look at these controls a little later when we do a more complicated example. But for now, this looks good, so let's click Next. This dialog just shows you, based on the size of your image and the resolution you provided, what the length of that image is in meters, and 1.63 looks about right. This is a good place to check. If this is wildly incorrect, it probably means that your resolution was wrong. Mine looks correct here, so I'm just going to click Finish, and that should load this image into the session. And there it is. You can see it here. I can zoom in. Pan around. So you can see we didn't have any session loaded, so Corelyzer just created a default session containing the single track that contains this single section. Let's import some more images. If we go to File, Load Images, Open Image Files, back to our image file folder here. I'm going to choose more sections from the same track, 1C. And I'm going to select several of them. I'm going to select these 4. You can always do multiple selection when you're choosing image files to import here. Click Open. I don't need to change anything in the top portion of the dialog. I know my resolutions and orientation is correct. And then looking at how Corelyzer has sorted our new cores into the existing session and track, everything looks correct here. You can see this is the core that we imported initially, the track we created for it. They have no green dots next to them indicating that they are already there. They cannot be removed from this dialog. Our 4 new cores that we just selected do have this green dot indicating that they will be added to the existing session and track if we proceed. If we decided we didn't want to add all of these, we could remove some of them. If I wanted to remove 1C3H1, I could just click Delete here, and then only the remaining 3 cores would be added. But we want to add all of these, so we're going to go ahead and click Next. Again, our resolution was right, so these all look correct. And if I click Finish, Corelyzer will add, you can see in the list here, it is added 4 more sections. And those sections are positioned, they're just stacked on top of the existing ones. So this is the first of our batch of 4 that we added, and there's the next, and so on down the line. So Corelyzer will just stack them such that they abut each other and don't overlap when adding cores to an existing track. Now let's add one more image from this track. The last image from this track, you'll notice that I skipped over 1C, 1H, 1, 2 here and went straight ahead and loaded these 4 cores. So now we're going to load this one. And once again, Corelyzer is auto-sorted. And notice that this new core with the green dot now, Corelyzer wants to place that in the middle of cores that we have already loaded in previous imports. And that's because it wants to position this correctly. And this is where it belongs. It is the second section of the 1H core of the 1C whole. And so if we just proceed ahead with this, that all looks good. I'll show you what happens. Corelyzer has actually inserted that core into the correct position and moved all the other 4 cores that we imported before, moved them down the line to make space for this core. So Corelyzer is fairly good at determining what tracks cores belong in and what order they should be in, as long as your naming convention is consistent. Now let's import the rest of the cores I have in my directory for this project. What I'm going to do this time is I'm going to be really lazy, and I'm just going to select everything, including cores that I've already imported, just to show you what happens. And this is also to illustrate the benefit of just having everything in a single directory. When I click open, here's what happens. You'll notice that Corelyzer has not added new entries for things I already had. It simply ignored those 6 cores because they were already part of the project. But it did add a new track and cores for 1A, and a new track and cores for 1D. That all looks correct. The order is correct, the names are correct. So we will proceed. Click next, and this should all be fine. I'm going to click finish now. You can see that Corelyzer has added 2 entirely new tracks, one for the 1A cores and one for the 1D cores. It adds those above the original track. That can be adjusted. We'll talk about that in another tutorial. The position of these, that is. So again, that demonstrates Corelyzer's auto-sorting and auto-dividing into appropriate tracks based on file names. And so as long as your names follow those conventions, it should be fairly straightforward to import a whole batch of cores at once and have them placed in the correct tracks. What if your cores aren't named according to a standard naming convention? Then Corelyzer will not be able to auto-sort them, but that is something that we can manage manually, and I will demonstrate that right now. Again, we'll go to the File menu, Load Images, Open Image Files, as always. And I've created this directory of 5 core images that have, logically sensible names, Hole 1, Core 1 through Hole 3, Core 1. But because this is not abiding by some convention, when I choose to open in Corelyzer, here's what will happen. Corelyzer will try to put each of these into their own track. And that is not exactly what we want. What we really want is to put Hole 1 and Core 1, Hole 1, Core 1 and Hole 1, Core 2 together in a track. Same for Hole 2, Core 1, Hole 2, Core 2, and then Hole 3, Core 1 can be in its own track. It's the only core from that track. So how do we override Corelyzer's default sorting? We do that by highlighting cores we want to move around and using the move up and move down buttons. So I'm going to move Hole 1, Core 2 into the track with Hole 1, Core 1. I'm going to do the same thing with Hole 2, Core 2. I'm going to move that up into the track with Hole 2, Core 1. Hole 3, as we said, can remain the same. And now we have these 2 track entries that are just empty. And so we can just get rid of those by clicking delete. And finally, you'll notice that this track is called Hole 1, Core 1, which doesn't really make any sense. We probably just want to call it Hole 1. And so we can change that name by just doing rename track and getting rid of the Core 1. Same here. And same here. And so now this looks pretty reasonable. Our cores from hole 1 are in the hole 1 track, same for hole 2 and same for hole 3. So now if we move forward, all those settings look good, and click finish, then there we go. So we can see our cores have been sorted into the appropriate tracks. Track hole 1 contains core 1 and core 2. Same for hole 2, and then hole 3 contains the single core that's part of that track. So that is how you manually arrange cores so that they are in the tracks that you would like them to be in. The first time an image is loaded in Corelyzer, it's processed into an internal format that can be read very quickly. This will take some time. Depending on the number of images you import and their size, initial processing can take a few seconds to many, many minutes. Corelyzer only needs to do this process once. Already processed images should load quickly. I'll just show you briefly here. We'll load a big batch of images that we have not loaded before. So we're going to load all of these, which is quite a few, by 30 to 40 images. These are 508 DPI and they're horizontal. So if we choose to load all these images, you can see our progress bar is slowly filling up here, although it's actually going pretty fast. And you can see as each image is loaded, it is added immediately in the canvas. You can see we're pretty close to finishing up here. And now we're done. So that took, I don't know, 10-ish, 20-ish seconds or something. So let's just save this session. Glad 9. And now if we close this session and reopen it, it should be much, much faster this time. It should be basically instantaneous. And there you go. Everything's already loaded. It happened just like that. So again, that initial processing should only happen one time, and after that, things should open very, very quickly. In the next tutorial, we'll examine and manipulate the images that we've loaded.